So my name is Maya Simon, and I am holistic cancer coach and a functional nutrition and a lifestyle practitioner, certified in both. So I'm just going to talk about my personal story with cancer and why I'm so passionate of delivering the message that I've learned through my personal story to people, so people would have would know what to do when they're facing the challenges with cancer, particularly. So I was diagnosed with cancer in 2008. It was literally 4 months after my mom passed away from lymphoma. I was diagnosed with stage 3B breast cancer, which spread from my breast to a chest and other lymph nodes. It was stage 3B, and me having nursing background, working in a hospital, I just followed the instructions, whatever I was told by my doctors and my oncologist. Go through the mastectomy, go through the chemotherapy, go through the radiation, and after that, hormone replacement therapies, which I just followed what I was told, like a pro, I would say. So anyhow, after 5.5 months later, after my first experience with cancer reoccurred and was metastasis into the endometrium. When I went back to the doctor, my oncologist, I asked why, because first time when I was diagnosed, I went through entire process and I was told everything is clear. We took everything out. We did everything. You're good to go. And then why did cancer came back? I had no idea. And when I asked my doctors, they told me that they don't know. It must have been a genetics. But to me, it was kind of shocking. I wanted to know why. And I wanted to learn why was I getting cancer in the first place, when I didn't have any family history of anyone in my family getting breast cancer or any other form of cancer, except my mom was the first one, but she was exposed to many other things in her life that she got lymphoma. But in my case, I was like, why did I get cancer at the age of 44? So going into the rabbit hole, like first couple of weeks after second diagnosis was like a kind of a roller coaster for me. I was going up and down with my emotions and feelings. People who get diagnosed with cancer, they understand what kind of emotions we go through. It seems like a life goes and just goes on hold. You don't even know if you're going to have a future. You cannot even make a plan or anything like that, if you're going to even survive. So the emotions, the feeling, the fear, everything just sits all in one. And I felt it like I was trapped in the universe all by myself, without any kind of support, even though I had a great family support. My loved ones, my family, my siblings, friends, they were all there for me, but I still felt like I was all by myself, floating in the universe, in the darkness, and I couldn't see the light, how to come out of that tunnel where I was sitting. So the one thing that I had second time when I was diagnosed, I had the strong gut instinct that there has to be some other way. It cannot be only this way. Whatever the mainstream medical system is telling me, it has to be other ways. So I was just like praying basically next 2 to 3 weeks for God to give me the way. Like I was praying like, God, please show me the way, put me on the right path, and I'll take it from there. That basically was my prayers. So I wasn't asking God to heal me or anything. I was just asking him to put me on the right path, so I can take it from there myself. And sure enough, like with my research, I started learning so much that there's so much around us that we need to pay attention when it comes to cancer, not even cancer, overall health, our health, that we have to pay attention to beat that monster, beat the cancer. And when we get clear from cancer, not to be afraid after we beat the cancer that the cancer is going to come back. Because that was another thing. After the first time when I was diagnosed, after all the treatments, I had this fear constantly sitting in the back of my mind that how about if it's going to come back? Is it going to come back? Every little like discomfort in the body would just like make me very worried, and had this fear in me that there might be a cancer sitting in the body somewhere again. So short story, when I started doing the research, I started realizing there is not only medication or chemotherapy or radiation has to be in the treatment package to heal the cancer. There has to be so much more. And I will talk about it. What are those simple steps that we need to pay attention, that does not require basically money. It requires our attention to heal our body. When I told my doctor that I have decided to take a holistic approach and I don't want to take any conventional treatment, she looked at me that I was crazy. She told me, like, Maya, do you understand? It's a stage 4 because it's metastasis at this point and it's a reoccurrence. I said, I do understand, but there's another thing, like if the cancer came back, I kind of feel that you did not do whatever needed to be done. So you did not heal me. That's why cancer came back. You never addressed the root cause of the problem, and that's why cancer came back. So for me, that was an opening. When I decided to look into the holistic approach, this was in 2015. I lived in Illinois at the time, in Chicago. I was looking for a physician or anyone to guide me through, because I knew I have to change my diet. I knew I had to change my life, but in what depth I have to do that, I had no idea. So when I was looking for the doctors and asking them for a support or guidance, everyone would tell me, okay, all the second, third, fourth opinion that I went to, they would tell me, you know what, Maya, just go to your oncologist. I think your oncologist is doing the right thing. You have to follow up. And then once you're done, then you can just, add this supplement to your diet. Every clinic I would go to, holistic or whole clinic or alternative, they would just tell me, go and take this supplement. They would always give me some sort of supplements to take. And I was like, and that would frustrate me. Why the supplements? Is there anything else that needs to be done beside the supplements? No one would tell me anything. No one. So I was like basically on my own, on the mission of day and night, researching and researching and researching. And I start learning that before you start taking supplement, there's so many steps that I have to improve in my body, in my household, within my life, that and then go on the supplements after that. So what I'm talking about is about my sleep. It's about my digestive system. It's about breathing. It's about household item. It's about the air I breathe in. It's about water I drink in. It's about what kind of food I put in my body. So all of those things all together, that step by step, what is toxic elements? What is the GMO? What is the organic stuff? Why do we have to change all of those things to improve to improve my health? So every step that I was learning, it was opening a new door for me. I was learning more about human being body. I was learning about simple steps that we have to improve ourselves. And everything that I would approach, I would start seeing the differences and changes in my body. So after 8 months, me working on myself and my mindset and my diet and my sleep and everything, after 8 months, routine CAT scan had showed there wasn't any sign of cancer. So that kind of changed my entire life. That changed my entire world. Not only mine, there's so many people start changing because of what I learned through my cancer experience. I always say, like, cancer for me was a blessing. It basically made me who I am today. It changed my life completely. And I'm so grateful. At the time when I was diagnosed, I didn't get that fear emotions, that to be afraid of challenging myself and looking into some new opportunities or some new ways of implementing and that helped me to heal. So, and those, and I would like to talk about some of those steps, what I took and why are they important. When I work with my clients, when I worked on myself, I start realizing one of the biggest mistakes that we make in holistic world, especially in the functional nutritional world, that we make, like what I see nowadays is like we're gradually switching from kind of getting prescribed medications to getting prescribed or giving us supplements to take. And I do have clients coming to me with 20, 30, 35 different supplements coming to me for help. Those supplements they're on, it's not helping them. They're still having the problems because the doctors, unfortunately, even functional and nutritional physicians, they're not addressing other parts of our body, our physiology, what the God inputted in us as a human being, in our body, in our system. We're missing that part. And that's why a lot of people are struggling. We have learned, it's been programmed in our subconscious that when we get sick, we have to run to the doctor's office to get help or to get a prescription or jump and get some supplements or something else. We never ask ourselves, like, what can I do to heal myself? Because this is my body and I'm the one who has to be responsible in healing myself. The doctors are great. They do save people's lives. They do help you, but they are not going to give you or come and do the things for you. You're the one who is responsible for your own health. You're the one who is in charge of your own body. You're the one who knows more than anyone else on the planet the way your body feels. Every little pain, every little discomfort, you're the one who knows better than anyone else does. And that should be a great lesson for us when we hit diagnosis, whether it's Hashimoto's, whether it's like autoimmune diseases or cancer. What can we do for ourselves instead of going around and asking everyone to heal our own body? So I'm going to share my screen right now, and I briefly prepared a little kind of presentation explaining what I was talking about right now, to show the steps that I was implementing in my life and how I work with my clients to improve their own health. Let me just quickly share my screen. Since I'm a cancer coach and most of my clients are cancer clients, this presentation is basically, I put it together how to prevent cancer or how to keep the cancer away from your body. But it does not only goes for cancer, it goes for many other health conditions. As you see on my screen here, just enlarge it a little bit. So what I have here, the main thing that needs to be paid attention when we're facing any form of health issues, we always have to look back and see where the problem could start at. The majority of problems that links to many health conditions starts in our digestive system. When our digestive system goes off balance, when we get depleted in nutrients absorption, because of many other things could destroy our digestive system, it could link to so many different health conditions. This is just shortly to show you when the digestive system is off balance, there's so many health conditions that could occur: chronic pain, inflammation, skin conditions, sleep, brain function, and mental health. I'll go in depth a little bit in some of them: energy, heart health, endocrine health, cancer. Why? The simple step we never pay attention to when it comes to our digestive system. And those simple steps are basically the way we chew our food, how long we keep the food in our mouth. When we swallow the food, do we drink the water over? And do we dilute our hydrochloric acid, which is the stomach juice, is responsible of breaking down proteins in our system? Because when we dilute our stomach juice, those proteins does not break down. One of the main process in the stomach that is happening is intrinsic factor, which breaks down, isolate B12 from protein. When we don't have a high level hydrochloric acid or acid strong enough to break that down, that process is not going to happen. So when someone comes with B12 deficiency or iron deficiency, what is the first thing that I would look into that? I'm not going to look into giving people or suggesting them to take supplements. I would look into more deeper. Why this person is depleted in B12? Why is her body is not breaking or absorbing B12? That's what I would look into. And that would take me back to the digestive system. It's very important to pay attention to very simple steps. Be mindful when you eat your food, which is like chewing your food. The longer you chew your food, that food is gonna go into the stomach partially digested, because we do have a lot of enzymes that our saliva releases to start breaking down protein, fat, and particularly carbohydrates in our mouth. So we're kind of helping our stomach already to easing the job of our stomach by chewing at least 35 times. In our world, we say like drink your food and chew your liquid. Even though with liquid, I suggest my clients to hold down the liquid in their mouth and let the saliva to release those enzymes to help to break down the protein, fat, and carbs. So in the stomach, it would break down more further, more breaking down and absorption is going to happen. When we cannot break down protein, then large portion of protein would get stuck in small intestine and causing a lot of problems. That's where the inflammation comes in. That's where a lot of problems with the digestive system comes in, as like a SIBO or IBS or colitis, just because we cannot keep a strong acidity in our stomach by drinking fluid with our food. Fluid needs to be consumed half an hour before we eat food, an hour after we eat our food. During the meal, less fluid we consume. It doesn't really matter in what form we consume the fluid, the better our digestive system is going to work. This is one of the main simple ways to pay attention to our own body. It does not require money. It just needs our attention to heal our own body. Until we won't address the simple steps, it doesn't matter how many supplements or how many vitamins or how many drugs we will be on. Our body is not going to start this healing process. This is a very, very important part to pay attention to on our digestive system. I have modules on every step of what I teach, what I work with them. They take a lot of homework with them to learn. This is a pattern that I learned from my own experience of working with so many clients, that this is the most important part that we have to pay attention to. I'll go to nutrition immersion later. Next step that I want to touch, it would be sleep. Okay, sleep is one of the greatest things that our body has. During the sleep, our body basically resets itself. It's repair itself. So many of us, we take sleep for granted. We spend our time in front of electronics. Nowadays, especially young children, they spend a lot of time around electronics. Why the sleep is so important when we are sick, particularly when we are sick. I remember our grandma would say, like, go to sleep, you're going to get better. And she was right, because during the sleep, our body repairs itself. Between hours 10 and 6 o'clock in the morning, that's what a lot of repairs happen, particularly between 10 and 1, our body does a lot of changes. For example, in hormonal changes. Let's say T4 would convert to T3 between hours 10 and 1. Our body is gonna, the pancreas is gonna release insulin to bring the glucose levels down in our system. When people don't sleep around certain hours, we don't heal our body. We miss the opportunity, giving our body a chance to heal itself. And when we deplete ourselves on sleep, a lot of problems start occurring in our body. Number one, the chronic pains and inflammation, because the liver does not get a chance to break down the toxins, which happens between 10 p.m. and 1. Sorry, I have someone else hop on. Okay. So our circadian rhythm is basically our biological clock. We are part of this world. Everything in this world has its own biological clock, has its own circadian rhythm. We're no different from them. The plants has them, animal kingdom has them, little bugs and bees, they all have their own circadian rhythm. We never kind of mention to animals like it's time to go to sleep. At certain time, they just go to sleep. Even plants, the flowers would close as when the sun starts going down. The trees fall asleep. So, but we are, as a human being, we taking this beautiful thing that it's been input in our system for granted. We deplete ourselves on sleep. If every hour of not sleeping, we're causing a damage to our body. It takes away, I believe so, about 3 to 4 hours for every hour not sleeping away from our life. So we're shortening up our life. And then we are waking up being irritable, being fatigued, having pain. Those are the things. Another thing that happens during the sleep is, like, of course, release of melatonin, hormone melatonin, which is so important, especially when it comes to cancer. The higher melatonin level, it's known as the anti-inflammatory hormone. And the melatonin actually gets released in our digestive system first, and it gets released secondly, it gets released in our brain, in pituitary gland. So that's why when I talk about digestive system, it's so important to have a strong and functioning digestive system. If there's any health conditions, the first place that we have to look into, it has to be our digestive system. So when our digestive system compromised, the melatonin is not getting released and in the quantities that we need it. Because melatonin is a relaxer hormone. It puts us to sleep and it keeps us to sleep. Our body goes through the phases of sleep. We sleep 4 hours of strong depth sleep, in depth sleep, like very strong for 4 hours. That's when our body fixes itself, prepares itself most, which is between 10, 1 or 2 o'clock. It depends on regions. But after that, we go into this REM sleep, 90-hour wave of sleep. We fall into the deep sleep, and then we go into the lighter sleep. We fall into the deep sleep and then go into the lighter sleep until we wake up in the morning. So when we wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock and cannot sleep, that's mean our body is under stress. The cortisol level spikes up, keeps us awake, because cortisol is awake hormone. It's an energy hormone. It keeps us awake. When the cortisol is constantly up, it would affect the hormones. It would affect the mood. It would affect the DNA. It would cause damages. And then most importantly, it increases the blood glucose levels, which feeds cancer cells. So that's why I always bring this up, like sleep is very important part. This is a step that does not require money, does not require anything. It requires your attention and paying attention on what you have to do, being mindful. Like the sleep is another important part before we jump into the major, treatment plans. This is the basics that we have to fix our body with. My next step, okay, how do we improve our sleep? This is very important. We have to prepare ourselves to go to bed, especially when it comes to children. My heart breaks when I see young children being on their electronics until 12 o'clock in the morning, and their melatonin levels completely getting off balance. Their body, unless they sleep, less melatonin body would release. More we sleep, more melatonin our body is going to get released. And less melatonin, that's mean the melatonin is precursor for tryptophan, dopamine, and serotonin. That means anyone who does not sleep and does not get enough melatonin, they're going to be depleted in tryptophan and dopamine and serotonin as well. That's where a lot of anxiety, that's what a lot of depression, that's where a lot of mood and fatigue comes into the place. And before putting people on certain supplement, that's where we have to go back and pay attention. How can we fix that ourselves? So regulating sleep, we have everything in this world has its own time. We are, as a human being, we have our own biological clock, and that biological clock also falls into the sundown and sunset. When we get close to sundown time, we have to start making preparations to go to sleep. Those preparations means like a slowing down in a lot of actions, like actions that involves hyperactivities and stuff like that. Having even going to exercise past 6 o'clock, like I don't recommend to do anything, such a thing. Walking is great. Walking would calm down nervous system. Having meals past 6 o'clock is another thing, or having coffee or any energized drinks after 6 o'clock that would bring, I don't even suggest them to have past 2 o'clock drinking coffee or any energizing drinks, but at least past 6 o'clock to avoid getting anything that would increase the cortisol level instead of increasing the melatonin level. So eating heavy meals, the meals like dinners has to be light. Your body has to go to the stage where it's going to get ready to go to sleep, because when our body's getting ready to go to sleep, internal organs gradually, they shut down. They're getting ready to sleep. So our pancreas would start releasing enzymes, liver, the same thing. So, and when we introduce food around 7 p.m., when the body is ready to shut down, we kind of shaking our body back and making it to wake up and start working, because it has to process the food we're eating, and that causes the stress on the body. So we have to pay attention to those steps, like eating past 6 o'clock. When the sun goes down completely, we have dimming the lights inside the house is another thing, because the signals our brain gets that it's dark outside. It's through the retina of our eyes. We get the signals to our brain, it's getting dark, and the body and the brain send the signal to pituitary gland to release the melatonin, and that's how melatonin get released. If we are creating a routine, going to bed on time, is the body, even though depleted in releasing melatonin, by having that routine, doing that every single day, body gradually is going to increase the production of melatonin, our own melatonin. Our body knows how to release them. Instead of going on the supplements, it's better to get your own body to release that melatonin. Creating environment, like playing the soft music, that's another way. Meditation is a great thing to do. Like, it doesn't have to be an hour of meditation. 10 minutes, 15 minutes of meditation before you go to sleep is a great way of calming your body down and letting go into that parasympathetic state and getting ready to sleep. As I said, limiting light exposure, the food, physical activities, not to do heavy activities, but just having a very light walk or gentle yoga stretching, something like that is very important. Another thing is the room temperature. The cooler the room temperature, better sleep apparently people do have, and I'm one of them. So when it's cooler in the room, I sleep better. When it's not, when it's hot, we constantly keep waking up, because during the sleep, our body also manages its own temperature. Okay. So after my presentation, I will take the questions. If any of you have any questions, I will take them and explain in more depth if I'm missing on something. So the next step is hydration. I'm going to go hydration in the next step. Hydration. This is another thing that we also don't pay attention a lot. hydration. The water is not a fluid. Water is a nutrition to our own body. Our body is about 75% of water, and we don't drink enough water throughout the day. The water is very important to maintain body fluid balance. That's number one. Intracellular, inside the cells, we have millions of thousands organelles that does the function. Those function is like building energy, and mitochondria, for example, building ATP. Inside the cells, we have different pathways like breaking down, converting protein, utilizing glucose. There's so many actions that happens inside the cells. And then when our cells are depleted in the water, that function slows down a lot. It's imagine like expressway. On the busiest time is the bumper to bumper. That's where those little organelles inside the cells that experiencing, they cannot move freely. They cannot have a full function because there's dehydration. It's not enough fluid. But when the cells inside of our body are dehydrated and have enough fluid, then everything moves freely. Everything happens very, very fast the way it should happen. And all the process, when people are dehydrated, they can be fatigued, they can be tired. As soon as they drink water with some minerals, we need minerals to take in for the water to go through the membrane of the cell inside the cell. Without minerals such as magnesium, potassium, or calcium, the water won't go through the membrane of the cell. So drinking water is very important. And the way you take your minerals are with your food, of course. There's a Celtic sea salt, or people use just the trace minerals in their water when they take the water. And I suggest that to do it with every cup of water you drink. So at least we have to implement at least 6 to 10 cups of water a day. It sounds a lot, but when you start sipping throughout the day slowly, you can do it. I have my big jar of 10 cups and I just go through that all day long. I try not to drink past 4 o'clock. So majority of water, for example, I drink is before 4 o'clock because I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night running to the bathroom. So that's another thing that to pay attention. As long as you get your water in, first part of the day is probably best just to sleep through the night, not to wake up. So the water lubricates our joints. When we complain on the joint pains, especially dislocated disc or when people would say there's no collagen, my bone is hitting on the bone and causing the pain, the water is something that is so crucial for those people. It dries up those connective tissues that we have inside of our body. It dries them up basically. And that's what happens, that the joint pains that we experience because of dehydration. So water helps with removing of waste. So if people are constipated, the very first sign of constipation, the water. Once you drink 1 or 2 cups of water, warm water, the constipation would just the problem with constipation get most of the time solved, unless people on certain medications. But if people are not on medications and they're constipated, the dehydration is one of the main reasons. So of course, when we're dehydrated, the skin has less wrinkles. That's another way for people who are dehydrated, their skin could be very wrinkly and very dry. You could feel the dryness of the skin. I used to have those before when I had no idea that how important the water is. So preventing kidney damages, urinating a lot, flashing out toxins that our body. Sorry, someone is waiting in the waiting room. Okay. I hope everyone is in. Okay. Yeah. So for kidneys is a filter of our system. We all know that, right? And when we dehydrated, so we don't urinate as many times as we need to eliminate all the waste that gets built up inside the kidneys, or inside the bladder. And by drinking water, we eliminate those toxins faster. Otherwise, they just circulate in our system. So this is how important the water hydration is to our body. Dissolve nutrients. Another way, our body won't make enough hydrochloric acid, which is a stomach juice, if we are dehydrated. We need water for our liver to release certain enzymes that would build up hydrochloric acid. And another best way to build up hydrochloric acid is, of course, chewing your food and drinking lemon water in the morning. Those are additional things that we can add to our routine to be able to build up hydrochloric acid. I mentioned preventing constipation and enhancing brain function. When we dehydrated, the cells do make energy, and it helps our brain function better because flow of the blood flow, transporting the red blood cells into the brain, transporting oxygen into the brain, our brain functions way better. There's, of course, a lot of other additional important aspects coming to the hydration. So this is another simple trigger that could cause so many diseases in our body, which is dehydration. Which is hydration, sorry. Okay. Next step is breathing. This is actually my favorite subject when it comes to when I talk about certain presentations. The breathing, we always take our breathing for granted and never, ever pay attention. We don't even realize every single day, if we stop breathing for a minute, we're just going to die. So being grateful that we're waking up every morning and breathing, we have to be grateful for that. So there's a lot involved in breathing. There's a lot of studies coming up now on breathing exercises and how much does it affect our system and our body particularly. One of them is mouse breathing. Mouse breathing causes a lot of damage to our body, and we don't pay attention to that, particularly when it comes to children. I don't know if any of you know, but mouse breathing is the #1 cause of cavities in children. Why? Because when children breathe through their mouths, every part of our body, every organ of our body contains with millions and millions of microorganisms. They basically, we survive on them. They repair our body, they balance our body, and our mouth is no difference. We do have microbiome in our mouth. When people mouth breathe, that pH balance inside the mouth changes. It becomes more acidic because it dries up and becomes more acidic. When it becomes more acidic, it promotes growth of unwanted bacteria, microorganisms that we don't need. And it's another way of getting bacteria in our stomach. And another way of getting stuff like H. pylori in our stomach. And H. pylori also would develop in our body when there's a low hydrochloric acid. It would never develop when there's a high hydrochloric acid. When we have adequate amount of hydrochloric acid, H. pylori would never grow. So mouth breathing causes a lot of damage to the lungs because the air we breathe through the mouth is very dry. But by nature, air we breathe through our nose, it's get filtered and get moisture before it get delivered to the lungs and other part of the body, other part of our body. So the breathing, paying attention to the breathing is very important. The mouth breathing cause snoring. Mouth breathing could cause sleep apnea. Mouth breathing also could implement in high blood pressure for many reasons. And that's why I'm very passionate of teaching people, on my clients particularly, about breathing, not just to breathe to calm down your system, which is a great thing to do, but learning how to breathe properly also, that's another way. So breathing through the nose, it would increase nitric oxide by 2000%. And we all know how much our heart needs nitric oxide. Breathing through the nose would deliver clean and moisture air into the lungs, which is going to prevent building the phlegm in the throat in the morning, waking up with dry throat, or even sinus problems, sinus infections. This is all from breathing through the nose. It would reduce anxiety. It would support proper dental, as I mentioned. Breathing through the mouth would cause cavities in children and in adults also, not only in children. And facial development. The kids who tend to breathe through their mouth, they will have a more narrow jaw, and the bottom jaw would be kind of pushed back, more toward back. It would become more narrow. So when the jaw becomes more narrow, when the kids grows, when all the teeth are growing, suddenly they have to remove their teeth because there's no space in their jaw, because they don't breathe with their nose, they breathe with their mouth. There's a lot of deformities happens in the facial structure just by breathing through the mouth. So learning how to breathe through the nose, it's very important. I suggest my clients, and I do it myself, like if people tend to breathe through their mouth, to put the tape on their mouth just to cover their mouth overnight. It improves sleeps by a lot. People do sleep overnight. I actually got text message from one of my clients who just started doing that 3 days ago, and she said that she's been sleeping 3 nights on the road without waking up just by putting the tape on her mouth because she sleeps more peacefully. So sleep is another aspect of basics that I bring in to teach my clients to improve their health. And the sleep is how do you learn how to breathe? I have an entire brochure on that, and those are simple breathings. If you search internet, you can find them by covering your nose, one side and the other side, taking deep breaths, and on a count of 4 in, 4 hold, and 6 out. So those are the basic steps. Breathing, especially before you go to sleep, it would help with a better night's sleep also. Mindset, new mindset, new results. I always say, like, our mind could kill us and our mind could heal us. Why? Because we are, I think, only species in this world that tend to think more negatively than we think positively. I think there was a studies that were done that we think negatively, I believe so, 8,000 times a day. So negative thinking does affect our hormones a lot. It puts our body into the anxious position. It creates a lot of anxiety, and anxiety affects our digestive system and could cause things like a heartburn just because of the way we think, just because of the way we process stuff in our lives. That is something that affect our hormones a lot. And when we are under constant negative,
It seems like it'll be over soon,
I'm sorry,
like on the last slide.
sorry. Okay. Was someone asking me a question or no? Okay. So the mindset. When I'm going to talk about my story. When I was diagnosed with cancer, of course, when I went to the doctor, my doctor told me that I had 15% chance to live past 5 years because cancer came back and it's reoccurrence. So when I came home after that day, after that visit, I had so much anxiety just because I heard something from the doctor. And that kind of shook my world completely. You know, even though when I asked the doctor, based on what are you telling me this, she told me based on statistics. Later in life, I learned that the statistics, what they're giving you is based on their statistics, basically on what they offer to a patient. It's not based on statistic that involves so many other pathways to learn, to know about your body. So my mind was going crazy. I was getting very anxious when I would think about it because I'm still young. I have 3 beautiful kids at home. I don't want them to grow without their mother. So there was so much anxiety. And that was like kind of what following me for next some time, I would say. I don't remember, it was a couple of months or, you know, a couple of weeks, but it was like, it was affecting me whole a lot just because someone said something. Would I start learning down the road that we have to learn how not to make someone else's words to become our life experience. This is so important, how we put our mind, especially when we want to heal our own body. How much do we have to trust ourselves in our healing that our body would follow our mind and start healing process also. So observing your thoughts, like why do you have those thoughts? What triggers for you to have negative thoughts? We always have to be very mindful around those things. What makes, like, I would always ask myself, what makes me anxious? Why am I thinking this? What can I do to change that? I would absorb my thoughts. I would try to change them. It was the hardest thing I think I was dealing with through my cancer journey. I didn't have a problem of changing my diet or changing my lifestyle. Anything that I was learning, I was doing with no problems, but changing my mindset was the hardest thing for me. I remember sitting in front of a mirror for a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hours a day, convincing myself, like, to trust myself, to trust what I'm doing, and just go with it. And that was the hardest thing. That's why I always talk about mindset, working with someone, reading about it, learning about it, listening to people, For me, for example, Joe Dispenza is someone that I like. I would listen to him. I did read his books, and they were motivating me. They were pushing me, like, to fight and believing in myself, because there was a lot of negativity around me. A lot of people would tell me, if that would have been so easy, everyone would overcome cancer so easily by changing their diet and stuff, and their mind, and learning all this stuff. But it's not that easy. The world I would hear, like, my doctors would constantly call me, telling me like I was playing with fire. My siblings, my friends, Maya, what are you doing? Do you understand? Like, this is not an option. You have to go for a treatment. But learning how to trust yourself, how to listen to your instinct, and how to see that you are powerful enough to stand up for what you believe in. You have to work on your mindset. You have to do that. You have to be grateful. You have to know how to practice gratitude. Be grateful for every single moment of your day. Be grateful for everything which you do. I printed out my my abnormal test result. I switched them around, and I pretended they were all normal, and I put it on the wall every day when I would wake up or pass by it. I would look at it, even though that wasn't a reality at that time, but I would be grateful for what I was seeing on the wall. This is how I was changing my mindset, that I'm grateful that I'm seeing a normal result. I'm grateful that my CAT scan is normal, even though I had no idea would it be normal or not, but I was grateful for what I was seeing. I was kind of making my future come into my present. So this is how I wanted my future, and I wanted to be right now present, and I wanted to feel that excitement. So a lot of work I put into the mindset. I put into practice. In that practice, I remember reading a book by Louise Hay. She was talking about no one put the thoughts in your brain but yourself, which is so true. No one puts the thoughts in our brain. We are the only one who put the thoughts in our brain, and we can change them. We just have to be so persistent in changing them, because once you do that, then you start realizing that your fear drops by many points. So the mindset is very important. Positive thinking is very important. Gratitude, keeping the journal, writing in a journal. Even though if you don't have it, don't be afraid to put it in your journal, what you want to have. And be grateful that you already had what you really want to have in the future. So those are the things that I was implementing during my practice during my healing process with cancer. And if there would be people who I would feel very kind of anxious being around, I told them in a nice ways that I love you very much, but I cannot handle right now the presence. I would rather, like, step away a little bit myself. I need some privacy for myself, because I needed the time. I didn't want to have this disturbance in the negativity coming my way, because I was working very hard to keep myself in a positive mode, and I didn't want anything to interrupt that, negative, the positivity, the vibration, the frequency, that I was putting in myself. So this was, like, for me, the mindset was the hardest thing. And I pay attention a lot, because I would say that my mindset had reshaped me a lot through my cancer journey also. Okay, sun exposure, sunlight, sun exposure. We all know how important it is. The best vitamin D you can get, that would be just from sun exposure. We have been told to use a lot of sunscreen lotions on our body, which are full of chemicals. And unfortunately, a lot of people do follow those steps without understanding how important for the sun to touch our skin, because then our eyes send the receptors to our brain that we are under sun, and our body starts preparing, and liver start releasing the enzyme to take that vitamin D from our skin and methylate it into D3 form inside of our body. That's the best vitamin D we can get by being exposed to the sun without using any sunscreens, any chemicals on our body. I'm not saying that we have to be exposed to during the day and sit outside for 5-6 hours during the heat very high when the sun is very up. No, we don't want to let our body to get burned. But having the morning sun exposure and evening sun exposure, those are the best times that we have to expose our body to the sun. Sun has so many healing properties, and it's great for our eyes. It's great for our retina. Wearing sunglasses also prevents the retina basically getting the signals. It doesn't matter what kind of signals. The sunglasses do prevent getting them. So if during the day we would be in the sun and wearing sunglasses, the retina is not going to recognize that we're under sun. And it's not going to send the signals to our brain that we've been exposed to the sun to take that vitamin D from the skin and convert it to D3. So that's another thing. I do see sometimes parents put like sunglasses on their children. So that's a big mistake we as a parents make. So paying attention to those little simple steps that's what matter most. Until we fix and repair those basics that we have, we can be on tons of different supplements and medications. Our body is not going to heal itself, no matter what. We have to pay attention to the basics if we want to really heal our body, but not to look outside of our body thinking, okay, what kind of supplement I need. I was there myself. There was a time when I was taking 30 supplements. I would read, oh, I need this. Oh, I got to buy this. Oh, my body needs this. And I would get them until I learned that how important it is to pay attention to the basics. And that is so important. That's what I teach my clients too. And then my last thing would be, of course, nutrition. Let me go, where was my nutrition? So diet and nutrition. This would be my last and most important, of course, part of our healing process. What we've been exposed to, that's what we basically get. We build our own life. What we live, it's our own making. If we're getting sick, that's our own making. And of course, there's emergency situations, there's accidents. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about chronic conditions. All those diseases, when it comes to chronic conditions or even Hashimoto's or autoimmune diseases, this is all our own making it. Why? Because we have no knowledge how important the simple steps are, how important environment is, how important the nutrition is, how important sleep is, how important hydration is. That's us. We are responsible for that. There's no doctor who's responsible for it. Not your sister, not your brother. You're the one who is responsible for that. So when it comes to nutrition, there's a certain food that our body needs. One of the main ones are healthy fats. Why do I say healthy fats? I'm talking about healthy fats coming from mostly animal products, some plant products. Why? Because if we don't have enough saturated fat, our body is not going to make any hormones. To make hormones for our body, for our thyroid to function, we need saturated fat. Every cell of our body, every membrane of the cell of our body is coated with cholesterol. Our brain, our myelin sheath is 100% cholesterol. When we deplete our body from those healthy fats, we cause problems for our hormones, as particularly hormones when it comes to thyroid, entire endocrine system. And so a lot of people, when they go on statin drugs, their hormones start going off balance within a year or two, their hormones. This is a pattern for people who goes on statin. The next step is like having hormonal problems. So having healthy fat in the diet is very important. Animal protein. Why do I talk about animal protein? We can hear everywhere that animal protein, particularly red meat, is dangerous and it causes cancer. It does not. The most bioavailable nutrients and most bioavailable protein we can get is from animal protein. There's nothing our body can break down better than animal protein and healthy fats. The fats coming from animals. So when it comes to cancer, low or no carb diet is something we have to be looking at. Why? Because the carbs would spike blood sugar. When it spikes blood sugar, there's a glycation process happens. There's a glycolysis happens, and the body gets more glucose, especially glycated form of glucose that cancer just loves and thrives on. There is 6 times more insulin receptors on cancer cells than on normal cells. What does it mean? That means they thrive on insulin. They thrive on glucose. So having that to a minimum or completely cutting off the carbohydrates is very important, not to spike the blood sugar. So cruciferous vegetables. Why particular cruciferous vegetables? Because they are high in sulforaphane, indole carbanols. They're very high and our body needs them. They're sulfur-containing compounds that our liver needs to create enzymes to detox our body. And the same thing, animal products contain sulfur-containing products, contains choline, which is another enzyme that we need for our liver to be able to detox itself. So when people talk about detoxification, they have to understand the entire process of detoxification, entire process of the liver, the way the liver detoxify itself. We have to understand that entire process and give what it needs for liver to do its own job. So liver loves bitter stuff, like dandelion is great, milk thistles is great for liver to detoxify itself. So cruciferous vegetables. There's a one negative part of cruciferous vegetables. It would take iodine from thyroid to be able to break down in our body. But our thyroid needs iodine, because without iodine, our thyroid would go completely off balance. Why? For example, T4 contains 4 atoms of iodine. It's like 72%, I believe. So T4 contains iodine, function and iodine. T3 is the same thing. I think it's 69% of T3 function and iodine. So when we depleted an iodine, our thyroid would go off balance. There's a lot of studies has been done. There's a great book by Dr. David Brownstein, Iodine, Why We Need It, Why We Cannot Live Without It. I highly recommend people to read that book. It does talk about the breast cancer links to iodine deficiency, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, they do link to iodine deficiency, prostate cancer. So they do lead to iodine deficiency. It's very important to consume food that's high in iodine. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of those foods that we have that high in iodine. The only ones that are we can get is from seaweed, like kelp, spirulina. Those are the things implementing into the diet is very important to boost the iodine levels or supplement with iodine. So when it comes to fruits and vegetables, very low glycemic index fruits and berries, not vegetables, but berries. During the cancer particular or any other health conditions, it's very important to have the blood sugar levels at the lowest, having the carbs at the lowest. That's when our metabolism is going to reset itself. And we just have to help with our nutrition, with what we eat for our body to do the job, because our body knows what to do. We just have to give the body an opportunity to do its own job. And the grain-free grains, there's no grain that is good for us. There's no such a grain that is good for our system. When they talk about grain being as a fiber, that's big baloney. So there's no grains that I would personally, I consume or recommend anyone to consume. The other most important food is fermented vegetables. Any form of fermented vegetables, especially sauerkraut, I highly recommend to consume because it's really, really good, particularly for people who goes through chemotherapy and they do have candida overgrowth, and fermented sauerkraut for me, for example, was my best food. I would drink sauerkraut juice a lot because it was making me feel good. It would take off that layer of white layer that would build up from chemotherapy in my mouth. It would take that off. It would take that nasty taste of metal in my mouth. It would make my stomach feel better. So I highly recommend fermented vegetables to consume in the diet. So those are my main basic. Of course, exercise. We all know how exercise is important for us for our body, to boost our hormones and balance a lot of things in our body. So, and that's basically what I want to talk about today on this presentation, or for people just to pay attention to the basics, because without fixing these basics, we are going to have a hard time repairing our body. It would not matter how many medications you're going to be on. That's why they almost never work. It doesn't really matter how many supplements you're going to be on, but until you fix these basics, you're not going to bring your body to that optimal health level. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'll be open for questions. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and I'll be happy to answer them.
I have a question.
Yes.
When people go through chemotherapy and sometimes they have low platelets, they have problem with immune system, what you suggest to such people when they're going through such things?
With a platelet? Well, chemotherapy kills everything in our body. Whether it's good or bad, it would kill everything. So what I usually suggest my clients who choose to go through chemotherapy is to do fasting. Fasting is fasting before chemotherapy. If they cannot do 2 days, at least 1 day, and then fasting day of a chemotherapy and fasting the day after chemotherapy, 3 days, but preferably 5 days fasting. Fasting, I mean like a water fasting only. So I do see for people like when they do that, effective chemotherapy is very, very high. That's number one. Number two, it's like a dual kind of action. The body goes through process of autophagy, so it would kill like very weak cells on its own, and plus adding chemotherapy to that, it's gonna kind of boost that process fast. But most importantly, what I start realizing, people don't, their white blood cells and red blood cells and their platelets does not go down as much as if they would not fast. So when people, the fasting would be one of the things to rebuild that platelets. You said platelets, right, Vera?
Yes.
Yeah, to rebuild that platelet, that's another thing. Another way, the other thing that would help to rebuild the platelet is, of course, to bringing in protein, because without the protein, our body cannot make platelets.
But if the people take chemo every day, and for example, week on chemo, 2 days without chemo, and again week on chemo, and people go on with it for whole life. I mean, for the rest of the life. Some of the cases, so people should be probably mimicking fasting, or I don't know, interval fasting.
Yeah,
in such cases, in order to have autophagy.
So intermittent fasting. So it's hard for me to give a suggestion because I'm not a doctor. I'm just a nutrition coach. But what I like suggest, for example, or what I would do, I would do intermittent fasting, having 1 meal a day. The reason for it, I would say why. The cancer. Number one, cancer loves glucose, of course, and cancer loves glutamine, and cancer can live on methionine. Those are 3 main things the cancer lives on. So glutamine, we have it everywhere. It's an amino acid that our body cannot function without. The same thing is methionine, because methionine is like converts a lot of things, one thing to another thing inside of our body. So we cannot live without those 2. We have to minimize them to the level, not to starve ourselves, but at the same time, not to give cancer a lot of pleasure to eat them. So I recommend, like what I personally would do, I would just go on 1 meal a day, but have that meal in high fat and high protein. That's what I would do. For example, your body would get needed nutrients from meat, and then it would get fat, because a lot of nutrients, they're fat soluble. They cannot break down in our body if the fat does not present. So, but to have a 1 meal a day, that's what I would suggest. In addition, with other, of course, with other treatments to rebuild that. That if the people are on continuous, chemotherapy, but not to eat, of course, junk food, and not to drink dirty water. The water has to be, of course, filtered, and not to use a lot of chemicals, because we know how chemicals do interfere with our endocrine system, especially like cleaning products. We talk about shampoos, soaps, any of those things. Like, I don't trust the system at all anymore. I make all of my stuff myself. This is to that extent that I just don't trust anything. I don't. So I make my own body lotion, I make my own shampoo, I make my own detergents, because I don't want to be exposed to chemicals that is out there as much as I can. So that would be my suggestion. And if that is, if people are on the chemotherapy continuously, I would highly recommend to work with integrative oncologists who might add some additional medications for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Okay, it's a little bit not about the cancer. It's about the hydration. That you said that you recommend. Did you say 8 to 10 glasses of water?
Right.
Okay. Here's the question: if it is for men and they have, let's say, enlarged prostate, and let's say they go and urinate often as it is, so for these people, if they start drinking so much liquid, so does it mean that it just the frequency of going, to the bathroom is just it's impractical? What would you recommend to do? It's impractical because they're in pain, or? No, because if they're going to drink more, they're going to go to the bathroom more often. Right. So here's the thing. I don't know for a male, he definitely has to work with someone who would understand his condition. Number one, why his prostate is enlarged. That's one of like, for example, if he comes to me, the first thing that I would look at it's why his prostate is enlarged, and what can we do to bring that to a balance. The prostate enlargement of prostate is related, of course, to hormones, and what is there happening inside his body, why his hormones are not working right, that he's been having enlarged prostate. So I would look more into that step, and then learning how, like, putting him on a diet like that could change that, and certain things that could change that. And trust me, there's so many ways of bringing that down, and I have done that with my clients.
My own brother had that problem, so we changed that. We changed his diet. We added certain supplements, and his prostate is like way much better. I know people with enlarged prostate, they tend to go frequently to the bathroom because enlarged prostate presses on bladder and makes people go urinate more. But that should not stop people from drinking water, because water still, yes, they will go more often, but they still need to be hydrated. Maybe might be a great chance that, you know, dehydration might cause his prostate to be enlarged too. You know, in addition, of course, there's probably more of a like, I'm not a doctor, I cannot diagnose, but the way I understand the body is there's a hormonal problem, because the prostate enlargement prostate to me similar is to a breast cancer, you know, the breast problems. So because they are both the same way work, just like in our body, in our system. You know, so looking at the hormones would be the one way, you know, and then repairing that and gradually repairing other stuff so he can drink water and he can put his body back into the balance. Is it doable? Yes, it is.
Okay, but what you have been saying about like low or like no sugar, no grain, that would help too, or is it completely different?
Majority, yes. The way I work usually with my clients is I learn about every client. I don't have a whole, this is my basics that I talk to a client, but the way I work with them, I learn about that particular client, everything. And then I do protocol that particularly would fit that client only, that his lifestyle, his diet and everything. There's no such a thing that one size fits all. There's no such a thing. We all so different. We all require different things. If my body needs something, your body will need probably something else, even though we might have the same problem. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah, paying attention to iodine intake, that's another thing that I would say to pay attention to, especially with prostate.
And it is, you mentioned that it's mostly supplements. There is no easy way to get enough iodine.
Yeah, I just know that from my own experience. Until I start fixing, like repairing the body's innate ability, our body, what it meant to do for us, until I repaired those things, it didn't matter how much how many supplements I tried, how many things, and I have seen that from my clients too. You have to fix the triggers. The triggers is one thing, and then you have to fix the basics of what our body is meant to function on. Until we won't fix them, because they destroy, like if people don't sleep, hormone goes off balance. You have to pay attention, like for a male figure, what time he goes to sleep? Does he sleep through the night? Like, how does he sleep? Is he like, there's so many things that needs to be paid attention to when we're trying to heal our body. And no doctor is going to talk about it. There's no one is going to talk about those steps. That's why we have such a huge gap in the medical system, because we are isolated. We disconnected, our mind disconnected from our body. We cannot connect them back together. We cannot think about it to connect them back together. It's like we've been so brainwashed, I would say, just to pay attention to those simple things.
Thank you.
Sure.
Maya, I have a question. May I ask you?
Sure.
Or it's, I guess, the comments. I understand, and I have been listening to Dr. Urso as well about the low carb diet. One thing that it kind of intrigues me is knowing that fiber, for instance, it's such a promoter of like a healthy gut because of the bacteria, the fermentation of the fiber helping to build the healthy, like being a food for the healthy the good bacteria. Also, all the anti-inflammatory components that vegetables will have, even if they're eating less fruit. So how do you coincide that with eating once a day? Without, like, it's almost impossible for the person to get all the daily needs in one time a day. I'm a little intrigued by that.
Yeah, it's very confusing. So when the body goes through the challenges, like when our digestive system is not 100% strong, especially during the chemotherapy, there's a lot of candida growth. A lot of people, they cannot tolerate the fiber very well. A body have a hard time breaking them down, and body having hard time to absorbing them, those fibers. So it kind of causes more damage to a body than the benefiting the body. So when we deplete, when I say one time a day, so when you take certain food away, I mentioned like a high fat and high protein, the reason for it is like our digestive system has to go to the stage of not feeding the candida, not feeding the bad bacteria, because they don't get fed on fat and protein. What they like, they could thrive on certain fibers. So the fiber is important, but when we're going through the certain stages in our life, certain people have to eliminate those fibers out to be able to continue healing their like a digestive system, particularly. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's really confusing. I think I need to read it much more, because also I'm thinking about the butyric acid, all those acids that are in the result of the fermentation of those bacteria, and they are antibactericid as well. So it is, but I really appreciate. I mean, we want to learn from every.
Yeah, butyric acid, butyrates are very important to keep. Our body releases butyrate from certain food that we eat. The way our body would release those butyrate, for example, like green bananas. Like I have certain like recipes for green bananas.
Yeah, the resistant carbs. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like those are mainly from right. the resistant carbs that you right. would not get it. Yeah.
Right. There's some of my clients, they cannot tolerate any fiber at all. You know, they cannot during the process of chemotherapy, it makes them feel worse. So I would hate for them for their body to go through that stress. That's additional stress on the body when the body cannot break down, when the body cannot eliminate, when the body cannot. So you have to take a step back to be able to heal, and then take the step forward after the healing process happens. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And when you mean that their body cannot break down, do you measure by like their having intestinal, like maybe not being either having IBS or having some like abdominal distension? What do you measure to say that they are having, or they are not having any intolerance to that? Like
so
just
I asked them to track their poop journal. I asked them to do every day to track like how they poop look like. You know, was it whether it's a diarrhea, whether it's loose stool or constipation, any of those things. So when they track those down and they tell me how they feel, because a lot of them get like bloating, gassy, discomfort, sometimes pain, you know.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of becomes more stressful on the body, because body has to deal with extra problem in addition to what the person is going through. So like we talk about like getting rid of that problem and eliminating temporary certain things that until the gut would heal itself. You know, once the gut heals itself, then we slowly, one by one, we reintroduce certain stuff, step by step. You know, so it's easier on a client, and it's easier on the digestive system. And then every step that our body goes through is the stress. Stress increases the cortisol level. Cortisol, it does more damage than any other hormone in our body. We all know that. So it's all about like paying attention what the person is going through, because everyone is different.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Anyone else has any questions?
Do you help people with diabetes? I have a person in my community. She's in 40s, awful diabetes on 3 medications, and the doctor's looking at maybe she has a rheumatoid arthritis as well. So do you help such people? And what's your philosophy here?
I'm working with someone who has very high diabetes, actually, with very high glycohemoglobin right now. I'm working with her. She is we're on elimination process right now, eliminating one thing at the time, because she's not ready to eliminate everything that could cause the diabetes. So basically for diabetes is to eliminate everything that could spike the blood sugar, which is carbohydrate, the sweets. The other thing is the dairy. Pasteurized dairy, it does affect a lot on our hormones, especially on diabetes. So I go through the process of eliminations with them. In addition to, the whole process is to bring the body into the ketosis, for the body to use to take the energy from ketones instead of taking from sugar. It's a process, but it takes some time. It would take probably about 5 to 6 months until the body would transform, especially for someone who is on very high, who has a very high diabetes. I'm diabetic myself, so I know very well about diabetes. So in the process of reversing it right now. Can you reverse the diabetes? Yes, you can. It all depends how are you willing to do so. If you're willing, like I'm determined to reverse my diabetes right now, and I'm working on it. So I'm halfway there. So how to do that? Everyone is different. It's all based on their being ready. If they're ready to do it, they will do it. If they're not ready, there's nothing you can do about for them to make them to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not more about me. I teach my clients, but it's more about that person. If she's willing to follow the steps, if she would be willing, then yes, she will. She will do it. I know people who did it, you know, who reversed their diabetes. I know people who did it. Is it reversible? Yes, it is. Even though people say, a doctor would say, no, it's not. So I'm doing right now, I'm keeping a journal. I'm doing the videos on it. So once I complete my reversing my diabetes, I'm going to post that out also. I'm trying the process on myself, and I would share my experience, what exactly I did and how I did it.
But my question here, one more question over to it. So if the person reverses it, it is still his like a marathon all his life, he supposedly should be on a special, not diet, but special food, because anyway his body probably will not properly work, or it's not true?
No, it's not true. The beauty of our body, it knows how to heal itself. That is the beauty of our body. And we take that for granted 100 times all the time, because if our body would not heal itself, we wouldn't be alive. Like we would have not go through so many like viruses and bacteria, like because our body knows how to heal itself. That's one of the things. Number two, would the person would really want to go to a lifestyle and a diet that brought him to that stage in the first place? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like if his lifestyle, if his old lifestyle brought him to the stage where he's not well enough and have a diabetes because of that, would he really want to go back to that stage? Like it's the same thing asking me if a lot of people do ask me, do you still continue with your cancer protocol? This is not cancer protocol. This is my lifestyle now. Because do I really want to go back where I was before when my body created cancer? No, I don't. What I want to do, I want to stay in the stage when my body can take care of itself, you know, and I'm giving everything what I could to my body to heal itself. And because of the knowledge that I gained through this whole process, do I have a fear now? No, I don't, because I know what to do. If something happens, I know what to do. So it all comes to a person, you know, and it's not a willpower. It's more of a learning and understanding. When we learn and understand, you don't want to go where you know you're going to get burned. I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, another question. Sorry, I took space.
That's
Somebody else would like to ask, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
And another question, when people went through healing, for example, they went through chemo or through surgery, and the doctor saying, yes, you are now live your life, you are cancer-free, or your chances, for example, 1 of 100, those people definitely needs to be in mind that they need to, it should be something like lifestyle, maybe some supplements, something which will guard them and give them peace of mind that they do everything they can do in order not to have it back. How do you approach it?
Well, unfortunately, doctors does not say right things a lot of time, unfortunately. I don't know, when I ask my oncologist, like, is there anything I can do myself, like diet maybe changes or anything? She told me, no, there's no such a thing. The diet is not going to help you out because cancer reoccurrence, it's a stage 4. You cannot do anything about it. Was that true? No, it wasn't true. It all depends how we take it, absorb it, digest it, process it, and live with it. You know, if we take it seriously and listen to a doctor, then we would just follow whatever the doctor's saying. Because they're saying what they were taught in school. Not because they don't want to do it, because that they have a policies, they have rules there. But I would say it all depends how a person takes it, how a person absorbs it. I'm not putting people against the doctors. They're the greatest things. Like in my family, I have a doctors and I love them a lot. But we always have to be mindful. What else can we do ourselves? What can we implement ourselves? Because doctors, the way the doctor treats nowadays patients, it's one size fits all. If you go as a diabetic to a doctor, and there would be another 1 million people going for diabetes to a doctor, the very one thing they would give is metformin to everyone. You know, is it for everyone? No, it's not. So for them, it's like one size fits all. I think that's what medical system is failing, because they do the same treatment on everyone. And the same thing with chemotherapy. They basically give the same chemotherapy to all form of cancers. And that's why people are failing. People are not recovering from cancer, and it's damaging the body more. So it all depends how people approach, take the information, digest it, and working out for themselves. I just would like to teach my clients or anyone that I talk to, I just want to speak about it, like for people to be mindful. There's so many approaches out there. There's over 400 different protocols for cancer out there that we don't even have an idea that exist. Why don't we know about them? Why our doctors won't tell? Why my doctor never told me that removing your breast and putting that implant down the road would be dangerous for your body? It would cause toxicity to your body. Why I wasn't told stuff like that? That is, to me, is like so unacceptable. And that's why I want to talk about the stuff that what we can do ourselves to help ourselves, not just jump around and look for someone else to come and help us, especially for young mothers who are who raising kids. The way you're going to raise your kids, that's how your kids are going to grow. You have to know to be able to put the knowledge in your child's life. But that's what I'm passionate to tell people about my story and what they can do about it.
I'm sorry, Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just from like knowing your journey and how far you went and how it started, if you were to know then what you know now, does it mean that you would still go through what doctors suggested, like the surgeries, the treatment, or would you not?
No. This is my personal decision. This is my personal opinion. I would not go through what I went through. Even the first time, I would have not removed my breast, because removing breast is not just removing a breast. I was only 44 years old when I was first diagnosed. So, and when my breast was removed, I lost a lot of confidence in myself. I did not feel as a full, complete female. It took me a long time to go through that, accepting it myself. Because having one breast and not having another breast, it's damaging. It's like it's mental damage. It's a physical damage, because your body is not, number one, like a big portion of my body was numb, like the entire portion is still numb, for example, right? Some parts of it. Like, this is all challenge that we have to go through. And those things that what I know right now, would I do it? No, I would not. I would have not gone through what I went through first time. And my mom passed away 4 months before I was diagnosed from lymphoma, and she was basically burnt from chemotherapies. Like, I think it was how many sessions she had? 6 and 6, I think about 12 sessions. She was just burned alive basically from chemotherapies. And I regretted the stuff that I did. I didn't know what I know right now, because I have so much positivity and confidence that she would have been alive now. So it's all about educating yourself.
But saying that, let's say, I'm not saying like, let's suppose I mean, I didn't know how old your mother was. Probably
she was 61. She was 61.
Oh, she's a young woman. But let's say,
yeah.
So yeah, the reason I'm asking a little bit, because my mom has a breast cancer and it's metastatic, and she's 87 years old.
Yeah.
So, and so she's going with like hormonal therapy, and she's doing like chemo pills, not like a chemo, pills.
Yeah.
And because with her, I know that she would, in her age, she would never change her diet like drastically. So it means that we should go with what the doctor said.
I guess, everyone, as I said, everyone is different. And I meet my clients where they're at. I cannot force people to do something. And it's all based on how ready they are, what they are ready to do. Of course, some people are not ready to change, like what they have to change. Some people don't even understand why they have to change. If that lifestyle is okay for her, I mean, like, if that is what she wants to do, then I would say that that's what she has to do. I would add some stuff to her things, like, hormone replacement therapy is basically making your body to stop making its own hormones. Because the body, when we introduce synthetic stuff, artificial things to our body stop making its own things. That's the whole process. The chemotherapy destroys everything. Chemotherapy might take that, like, when I got surgery and my breast was removed, that did not stop cancer from coming back. Why? Because root cause was never addressed. Was never, like, no one ever think, like, why in the first place I developed the cancer? Why, what triggered the cancer? Those things were never addressed. That's why stem cells still there, stem cells still making cancer, even though they removed an organ. So removing organ is not the solution to a problem. Solution to a problem is understanding where the problem is coming from on the first place, and then trying to remove that problem. So that's what I would like, like, when you ask me, like, what would I do if I would go back? That's what I would do if I would go back. What I know right now, I would address the problem. I would address where does the problem is coming from, why my hormones is like went off balance, why my estrogen is like going off the roof, what exactly happening in my body that making my estrogen or the bad estrogens to grow, for example. And then, you know, so that's how I would look at the picture.
And sorry, you know, people who would go that way, like not go with surgery, not do chemo, and they're cancer free.
Yeah, I mean, I have clients who are going through the chemotherapy because I'm not telling anyone to go or not to go. That's their own decision. But if they, during the chemotherapy, if they want to work on nutrition aspect and lifestyle changes with me, that's what I do with them. I help them to understand their own body. They have to. We are as a human body, as a human being, we need to understand what our body is all about. You know, we have to teach this in school. The kids has to know like what our body is capable of doing, what we are all about to be able to help ourselves. You know, but we are so isolated from it. We are so distant from our own body. We don't even know that our body can heal itself. We're thinking like we have to bring the medication in to heal our body, which is such a wrong, like the thing that's been put in our system. So if I would go back, for example, if I would look back, I would look more in depth, like what I learned and implement those things before I would go for any other chemicals. Because when the body goes off balance and start growing cancer, that's our own cells like going abnormal and start growing cancer. So the way body creates cancer, the same way body can uncreate the cancer, but we just have to give the body what it needs. And then what it needs, that's what we have to learn. Because no one is teaching us what to give to our body. And unfortunately, they're not teaching the doctors that in medical school. Doctors they don't know anything about nutrition. My oncologist told me, oh, there is no diet, you know. But then in the end, she told me, you know what, Maya, I'm gonna buy a juicer and I'm gonna make a juicer for my entire family. That was like on the end where my results were all normal. That's when she started believing me, like that is what I'm doing is the right way of doing it. We need access to stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? So we are on the top of the hour. I hope my presentation made sense for you. I hope you took something with you to understand and to learn.
It was
Most
great.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So if no one has any questions, I would probably end this call. I'm going to stop recording.